So it is that time of the year again where a random scooper or somebody will say that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is coming back, or a character from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be in something soon. So look at all the upcoming Marvel Studios projects. And it's happening again right now this week with the upcoming Marvel Disney Plus show Vision Quest, which Vision Quest is really interesting because it's technically part 3 of like the WandaVision anthology, where we had WandaVision, then we had Agatha All Along last year, and now Vision Quest is coming out as like the next sequel. Part of me kind of wishes this was just one show that was like an anthology series with each season being the new thing, but whatever. This is a rumor that I don't know. There's not much to it, but I feel like there's enough to discuss about it. And as always, me making a video on this isn't me endorsing the rumor. Always take these sort of things with grains of salt. This one's just been getting a fair amount of traction on Twitter and stuff like that because it started with Cosmic Marvel sharing an article from their website Cosmic Circus, and that article was an interview with this guy called Alex Perez, who acts like they're an insider or acts like they're a scooper and has lots of information. I'm going to quickly talk about them and why maybe they're not the most believable source in just a second. But this one is interesting because it's a rumor that's not explicitly saying Daisy Johnson's coming back, Coulson's coming back. It's just a simple Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. might have some sort of role to play in Vision Quest. Like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a show, not the team, which that is vague enough that it could be anything, it could be nothing, it could be everything. We'll see. We'll discuss all this sort of stuff. So in this video, I'm going to first go over the rumor, the scoop itself, how credible the source is, then what I think of its likelihood, if I think it's going to happen, what I think about it, what it could mean, all that sort of stuff. And then finally on maybe this isn't why we think it is a thing, like what we actually think about it. But I will say straight off that we know a decent amount on Vision Quest at the moment, and I think based on what the story of Vision Quest is supposed to be, or based on the characters involved in Vision Quest, I do think out of all the upcoming Marvel projects, this is the most likely one for something Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. related to appear or have a reference in. But really quickly, this is the newest episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Explained, a series I'm doing where I pick a random topic pertaining to the show and do a video on it. So far in this series, we've covered some of the recent rumors relating to characters. We did that over the past half a year. We've covered all the major ones that have come out, as well as done some rankings and explanation videos, stuff like that. So go back and check out the other videos in this series if you're interested in them. One of my more recent ones is talking about why we probably shouldn't trust these scoopers as much as we do, or we probably shouldn't give these rumors as much traction as we do. But also, if you're not subscribed yet, make sure to do so. And if you are subscribed, maybe a like and share. It always is a huge help to the channel. Anyway, let's talk about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So like I said, this rumor got traction when Cosmic Marvel shared an article from their site Cosmic Circus. The article was an interview with Alex Perez, who has, or so he says, tons of information about upcoming Marvel projects. In this article, they were asked what they knew about Vision Quest, and Alex said that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans will celebrate a win, albeit a small win. And I'm immediately skeptical about Alex as a source because they are someone who pops up in interviews with Cosmic Circus quite often. Every half a year, Cosmic Circus will do a giant Q&A with Alex and have a list of Alex being asked everything about certain upcoming projects, and Alex will say what they think or what they know is going to be in these projects. And going off their Q&As from the last year, it does seem like they seemingly know a little bit about every single Marvel project, which seems a little far-fetched to me because I have a hard time believing that this one person knows something about every upcoming Marvel project. Even certain people, like scoopers who we know have been legit and have gotten things right in the past, have not known something related to every Marvel project. They've known little bits about certain projects and nothing about other projects. But Alex apparently knows something about every project, which is kind of not unbelievable, but it's curious to me that this person will be high up enough to have contacts with somebody who knows everything going on in the Marvel Universe at the moment. That is a little surprising to me. Last October, they were asked about Defenders, and while they did say that they think a Jessica Jones tease in Season 1 was likely, which we now know we're getting her in Season 2, they also talked a lot about seeing Moon Knight again in a Midnight Suns Marvel project. But that project, Midnight Suns, has always been sort of a pipe dream. It's never even been remotely confirmed by anybody at Marvel, and with how much more conservative Marvel is getting at the moment with how much projects they're releasing, they've said that they're lowering their movie releases, they're lowering their TV releases. We're only going to get a very small amount of projects every year so that they can control quality over quantity. It makes it hard to believe for me that we're going to see Midnight Suns ever, at least not in the immediate future. We would know about it now if it was going to be happening, I feel like, and Alex is saying Midnight Suns is pretty much confirmed. Moon Knight's going to be in it. That's where you're going to see Moon Knight next, and it's going to happen. And I don't know. Scoopers have been saying Midnight Suns is a thing for like 5 to 10 years. Has it ever happened? No. So, also, I hate to start this video on a Debbie Downer, but the Cosmic Circus interviews and articles treat this like they're interviewing some big scooper. But if you check out Alex's actual Twitter account, it says they were a writer for Cosmic Circus, meaning that it's not out of the realm of possibility that this is Cosmic Circus pretending that they have huge inside information when it's just somebody who has a lot to gain from the website gaining traction. If they're a writer for Cosmic Circus, they will want Cosmic Circus to do well and get out there so that their name can get out there. So why are they acting like they're interviewing this really big important person when it's just somebody who writes for the website? You know, there's a lot of holes to poke in this scooper and in everything that they've talked about so far. And yes, they did say in their December interview that they thought the Defenders would return, but once we found out that Daredevil Born Again was a huge follow-up to the Netflix show, I feel like all of us pretty much assumed that the Defenders would be returning eventually. Like, Jessica Jones was the one that I even made a video talking about the potential Defenders return. And I said Jessica Jones was the most likely, that if we're going to see anybody come back after Daredevil, it's going to be her. And since we have Punisher and Matt both in Daredevil Born Again, it's not the biggest leap in the world to assume they're going to expand that to the next most popular character, which is Jessica Jones. It's just sort of reasonable deduction and using your brain to be like, yeah, Jessica Jones is probably going to happen. And it feels like that's what Alex does in these interviews. A lot of the stuff that they say is like, yeah, this probably will happen. This should happen. But it's just a lot of stuff the fans are assuming is going to happen anyway. So I don't know. We'll see. What I'm saying is don't believe any of this at face value. But not to completely dispute this rumor, not to immediately hand wave it away and act like it's nothing, because in my research for this sort of stuff and really digging into what Vision Quest is, I do feel like it's not out of the realm of possibility we'll see something related to the show in it, because let's discuss the likelihood of it. So we know Vision Quest is going to deal with human versions of AI or LMDs or whatever you want to call them. We have Paul Bettany playing White Vision, but also he's going to be the human version of Vision. We have James Spader returning as Ultron, but it's reported that he'll likely be in human form a lot. The show will be featuring the location of Madripoor, which was heavily used in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and a really interesting thing is that Daniel RPK, who is a far more credible source in my opinion, reported about a month ago that James Darcy is supposed to be in the show reprising his role as Edwin Jarvis from Agent Carter, who then had the honor of being the first character introduced in a Marvel television series to make the jump to movies with his cameo appearance in Avengers Endgame. And he's also more recently reprised the role in Marvel's What If Season 3 in a really cool surprise. So he's been involved in Marvel in a while, so it's not like it's kind of believable that he would be in this given the nature of Vision Quest. On top of this, we have the character of Jocasta Pym making their MCU debut, who is also like an AI, like robot, LMD, sort of whatever character in the comics. Now, I said here that a lot of these characters are showing up as their human form. It is possible that this is mostly a budget reason and not necessarily a storytelling reason, that it's just much cheaper to have them be in their normal human forms than have them being covered in prosthetics and visual effects heavy for so much of it. That might not mean anything for the narrative, it could just be budget reasons. But from all of this, you can see that the show is geared heavily towards AI and the more artificial area of the Marvel Universe. And if Daniel RBK's rumor is to be believed, the show is not against using characters from Marvel television if Jarvis is in fact appearing. Another thing that maybe isn't as important, but I feel should be addressed, is that Terry Matalas is the showrunner for this series. And Terry is, in my opinion, one of the best current showrunners on TV at the moment. He did the 12 Monkeys television series for Sci-Fi, which was really critically adored. More recently, he worked on 2 of the 3 seasons of Star Trek Picard, with Star Trek Picard Season 3, which was the best season in my opinion, being the one season that he was completely in charge of, that he was the sole showrunner for. And I loved Picard Season 3, like I said. That season was heavily revolving around introducing legacy characters from older Star Trek television shows that we hadn't seen in forever, as well as going to a serious effort to make fans happy with a lot of little connections and threads and stuff like that. And the reason I'm bringing this up in particular is because I want to showcase that the showrunner for Vision Quest has a love for television and has a love for revisiting old things, has a love for making connections to things and making fans happy, and is very experienced in bringing legacy characters from decades prior and using them, at least in my opinion, very, very, very well. So if he was to bring in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. characters, I could see it. But to go back to the AI thing really quick, because I think it's the most important aspect of Vision Quest that relates to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., was that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. heavily from about the end of Season 3 onwards, with the introduction of Holden Radcliffe, used AI LMD's robots. Season 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was then completely about this stuff. And in Season 7, spoiler alert, what main character from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was in fact an LMD? Phil Coulson. If LMD Phil Coulson was ever to show up anywhere again, I think Vision Quest is the most likely place. Now, Alex said that this will be a small win, and I feel like for a small win, if we're taking this rumor as true, I wouldn't think of Coulson appearing as a small win. Like, that's an entire character with a direct connection to the show appearing. I don't think that's a small win. I think that would be a huge connection. What I think is slightly more likely is a reference to something from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. revolving around the LMD storyline. Like, we know there's a character in Vision Quest who's set to be an assassin chasing the technology that Vision has. What if we got a reference to how this assassin found technology used in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? What if we got a reference to how there was a Dr. Radcliffe at some point that the assassin was interested in? What if they mentioned how the Darkhold was known to mess with AI and LMDs because in Season 4 of S.H.I.E.L.D., Ada was given sentience because she read the Darkhold? And that would tie into the narrative of Vision Quest, as it's a sequel to WandaVision, and WandaVision was the MCU project that brought in the Darkhold in a big way. I feel like that's a really small reference, but likely reference that would be awesome for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans just to have this narrative direction that leads to Vision Quest. I think that would be really cool, and I think that could happen. Let's really quickly talk about something else, though, that I feel like people are going to bring up. And a rumor I covered on the channel from earlier in the year was when Clark Gregg posted a picture on his Instagram that was just him in his Coulson LMD Season 7 appearance. Everyone immediately was saying that this was important, that this was going to be something Marvel related. Then a lot of scoopers kind of jumped on this in the days afterwards, with some of the more non-credible scoopers like My Time to Shine teasing Coulson was returning and that Daisy was also returning. Now, I did make a video on this as soon as it happened, and it was mostly me doubting that this rumor was anything, because literally the week following this post, Clark Gregg was appearing on a theater production in New York that was set in the 1950s, where he wore an outfit extremely similar to what he wore in Season 7 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in that episode that was set in the 1930s. I saw it as him 100% promoting his theater production, and he was posting the picture of the outfit from S.H.I.E.L.D. because it was the only thing that he had that looked similar to what the character he was playing would look like. Then he followed this post up in the following days with another picture from him getting ready for the theater production. And everyone jumped on that too, thinking he was filming something Marvel related, but it was clearly that follow-up picture was 100% theater production. I also doubted this at the time for another reason I used, that if Coulson was coming back, why would Clark be using an image from an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode set in the 1930s where he was playing an LMD? If he was teasing Phil Coulson coming back, wouldn't it make more sense for him to post a normal look at Phil Coulson, like in him in his normal Phil Coulson outfit that he wore in 5-6 other seasons of the show? And I felt like this was a kind of reasonable doubt to have. I was like, if he's posting him in a 1930s LMD outfit, it probably doesn't mean this is Marvel related. It probably means it's for his upcoming production. But I guess if we view that through the context that he might show up in Vision Quest as an LMD, it kind of makes more sense. But do I believe that this rumor or scoop is real? I would lean more towards a no. But to be honest, in the making of this video and the writing of this script, I did sort of wrap my head around it slightly a bit more in a more positive way. I'm still of the mind that Clark Gregg's Instagram post was due to his theater production, and that due to the timing, it had to be due to that. And maybe it did have a double meaning so that he can say, oh no, that's for something else if, Marvel contacts him and asks him to take it down. But I just don't know if Clark Gregg would go to that effort, honestly. But just based off of characters that are appearing in Vision Quest, like Jarvis, the nature of what Vision Quest is about, with the Darkhold being semi-important to his past, to the extreme reliance on robotics in the characters, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that a heavy reference to something from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So do I think a character from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will appear in Vision Quest, even if it's just Coulson? No. I don't think that's going to happen here. Just because a small win to me doesn't mean a character appearing. Plus, an LMD Coulson would be very, very, very confusing to an audience that would tune into Vision Quest who haven't seen S.H.I.E.L.D. First, you have to deal with why is Coulson back, then you have to deal with why is he an LMD now, unless they kind of ignored S.H.I.E.L.D. or were vague about Coulson's past and were like, oh, Coulson died, now he's an LMD. Don't explain where he died so that maybe movie fans can, in their head, be like, oh, after he was killed by Loki, he became an LMD. That could be a vague way to get around having to explain too much or do too much exposition. But I think a simple reference to an event from the show or a name drop of someone like Radcliffe or Ada or an LMD Coulson could happen. Like oh, S.H.I.E.L.D. messed around with LMDs a few years ago with someone called the Dr. Radcliffe, or S.H.I.E.L.D. tested the LMD program on one of their high-ranking agents, which Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans would know would be Coulson. I think something like that is likely and not necessarily a character showing up. But as always, we just have to wait and see. I would take all of this with a huge grain of salt. We've been scorned 101 times at this point with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff. Scoopers know how loud Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans get when they mention something, and they're always looking for a reaction. What do you think? If you thought the scoop was a given, have I changed your mind? If you thought the scoop was definitely a no, have I changed your mind there? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. As always, if you liked the video, maybe subscribe. If you're already subscribed, maybe a like and a share. That's always a huge help, and have an amazing day.